Hello and welcome to this festive special of Matt's B-Movie Reviews, the show that looks at cult films that may have escaped your radar. As a horror fan, you'll no doubt be trying to find some decent Christmas horror mashups that are worth watching to avoid these overly sweet, schmaltzy movies that are taking over your TV sets. Now don't get me wrong, I love Home Alone as much as the next person, but there's a limit to how many times I can watch that film, and I'm always looking for something with a little bit more edge. So basically I've compiled 8 Christmas themed horror movies / TV shows that you can watch now for free on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get on with the list. Number 1. Black Christmas. A group of teenage girls begin to get menacing phone calls from a very troubled maniac during the Christmas break. As the girls begin to go missing, it soon looks like they're being taken out by a killer one by one, who won't stop until he has the sorority house to himself for Xmas. Now firstly I want to say that the slasher genre isn't my favourite. This is mainly due to the fact that it's way too overcrowded and has too many lazy copycats being produced. I mean, they're usually so derivative it's just beyond a joke. However, 1974's Black Christmas isn't a lazy rehash, as it predates the slasher boom of the 1980s. In fact, it even beat Halloween, which is heralded as the movie that brought back the slasher genre by a whole 4 years. Yeah. The creepiest thing in this movie has to be the killer's voice and backstory, which we get drip-fed through his creepy phone calls. It has adequate performances for its young actors and does well within its low-budget confines. It's mainly set within the girls' sorority house, which is full of darkly lit corners, perfect for a killer to be hiding in. It has a pretty decent body count, but doesn't suffer from an overabundance of gore, which it doesn't really need anyway, because when you see a girl get strangled to death by a truly psychotic original character, it really does add a sense of realism that's usually lacking in this sort of movie. So just remember, if you're staying in a sorority house over the Christmas season and that phone rings, don't pick it up.
What do you want? Why are you doing this?
Number 2. Tales from the Crypt and All Through the House. This episode follows a greedy woman who decides to murder her husband on Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, when a homicidal mental patient escapes dressed as Santa Claus and begins prowling around her property, she'll soon wish her husband was still alive to help her survive the night. Now, this was episode 2 of season 1 of Tales from the Crypt. I used to love this show and it was so freaky when I was growing up. The story was previously adapted from the comic book in the original Tales from the Crypt movie back in '72, and it had Joan Collins playing the wife who deservedly falls afoul of a homicidal Santa. Although this version is probably closer to the source material, as it's a comedy horror mashup with a little gore, all I can say is it's a must-see for this time of the year, and I don't want to give too much away by spoiling any of the plot points. All I will say is just be safe this year. Don't let anyone in who's dressed as Santa Claus, because you never know, they could be a complete psychopath. Number 3. Jack Frost. When a serial killer dies in a horrific accident that actually liquidizes his body into the snow, he comes back to settle the score as a walking, talking snowman. I'm not making this up. The film is a complete straight-to-video cheese fest with terrible acting, crazy deaths and some questionable directing. Still, I'd recommend giving it a look because it's nothing else but a unique movie. Oh, and it's American Pie's Shannon Elizabeth's first movie role. Check out the bathtub scene. Number 4. The Woman in Black. A young solicitor is sent to a creepy old manor house in the country to gather paperwork of the late owner. Unfortunately, he is tormented by an evil spirit whose hateful nature in life has only grown in power since her death. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, this isn't a Christmas movie. Well, not specifically. It did debut at Christmas time back in 1989 and scared a whole generation of impressionable youths. I think horror can work fabulously during this season. Just think about it, the dark days, cold nights, a perfect atmosphere for this type of story, don't you agree? The Woman in Black is a moderately budgeted TV movie that has a tense atmosphere throughout, and in many ways is better than the Daniel Radcliffe version, which, to be fair, was a little bit too heavy on the jump scares in my opinion. Also, as a quick bit of trivia, the guy who plays a central role in this also played Harry Potter's father in the Harry Potter movies, which is amusing because Daniel Radcliffe later played this role in the remake in 2012. Small world, eh? Oh, and if you're too scared to watch this film, don't worry, she can wait. She's always waiting for you. Number 5. The Twilight Zone, Night of the Meek. When a cheap department store Santa Claus is fired, he turns heavily to the bottle. He wishes he could give toys to all the needy children of the world, and soon he finds a magical toy sack that never seems to run out of gifts. How nice. This was Series 1 of the 1985's Twilight Zone revival, which is also a direct remake of the much older episode that appeared in the now legendary 1950s series, which was presented by the uber-cool Rod Serling. This episode is a fun little yarn about the power of hope in a world full of harsh poverty and greed. But if you don't like the sound of that, it has a pretty decent performance by lead player Richard Mulligan. I'd highly recommend checking this episode out unless you've got a cold, dead black heart, that is. Come on, it's Christmas time, check it out.
Well, where did these Christmas presents come from? From this bag.
Yeah.
Number 6. Christmas Evil. When a toy factory worker learns Santa Claus isn't real, he goes berserk and begins to prowl the streets to punish who's been bad this year. This movie really kicked the whole killer in a Santa Claus outfit into the mainstream and is highly regarded as one of the better efforts of this subgenre. Very low budgeted in a grindhouse sort of way, it doesn't have a huge body count as it mainly revolves around the central character's psychological meltdown. Silly, dark, and at times infuriatingly odd, I'd recommend you watch this and make up your own mind. On it also stars The Walking Dead's Jeffrey DeMunn as the brother to the troubled Santa Claus murderer. Oh, and I've got to say, without giving anything away, the crazy whimsical ending seems to suggest this movie will forever divide its audience. Go watch it now. Number 7. Elves. A crazy-ass little film here involving a Nazi plot to create a race of modern supermen with the help of a batch of summoned evil elves. Only a tough cop can stop them. This is a movie in the same category as Troll 2. It's so bad, it's good. Plus, it's damn hilarious when you see this elf thing puppet because it's just ridiculous. The Nazi story is pretty absurd in my opinion, but if you cut that back, it's actually a fun, cheesy movie that owes more to Gremlins than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Historical inaccuracies aside, you'll never see a movie quite like this again. Just think, would a studio greenlight a remake of this today? I don't think so.
Pervert! I'm not a pervert. I like to see a naked girl. I'm your fucking sister!
Number 8. Silent Night, Bloody Night, aka Night of the Dark Full Moon. On Christmas Eve, Wilfred Butler is murdered at his home, which has become a mental institution. Years later, his son decides to sell the now empty mansion. However, it seems there's still a killer residing there, and he'll stop at nothing to keep the secret of Butler's death. Now, this isn't an overly seasonal Christmas horror, which makes it another welcome addition to the list. A genuinely eerie and thought-provoking movie, which really benefits from its black and white style. Frankly, I like to check out these old movies that have a fair amount of film grain strewn across, and this one has it in bucket loads. This movie was genuinely shocking when it came out in 1974, with its provocative storyline and rather scandalous at the time. It's a movie that manages to break out of its B-movie confines to become a genuinely decent thriller. Think Rebecca meets A Christmas Carol, with Psycho mixed in for good measure. It's a thinking man's horror movie, that's for sure. Check it out today.
You're spending the night here?
Yes.
May I ask where?
At the Butler House.
And sadly, with that, we come to the end of this Yuletide list. There were so many movies I would have loved to add to this, but unfortunately, they weren't on YouTube. Remember, all the movies I've mentioned are available in the description box below, so don't forget to check them out. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop me a like, and please subscribe to my channel. So all that's left is to wish you a very Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you all in the new year. Bye! We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Is anyone even listening to this? All the best, see you in 2017!